right, to my boxing head, got another episode of the Red, White, and You. And I got my boy Simon over here, and we're going to talk some boxing, man. So let's go ahead. What you got on the docket today, Simon?
Well, we're going to recap past fights that just happened. Gary Russell Jr. versus Jojo Diaz, and also the Badou Jack and Adonis Stevenson fight. So those are the fights that just happened, so we're going to do a little bit of recap on that. Beginning with the Gary Russell Jr. fight. So great fight.
Yeah, entertaining fight, man. Jojo Diaz did a lot better than I thought.
He did. He shows promising future, man. 21-0 he was going into the fight. It was a great fight. He landed some real clean body shots, very consistent pressure on Gary Russell. Although the second half of the fight, Gary Russell looked like he really took over the fight. But it was I had it closer than the judges had. Two of the judges had it 117 and 111. I actually had it at 115, 113. And the only reason I did that is because I appreciate the body work that Jojo Diaz gave Gary Russell and the pressure. Like it was good, sustainable pressure. But of course, Gary Russell, one of the fastest hands in boxing. There's about so much you can do to keep Gary Russell at bay. So great fight. I look forward to seeing more of Jojo Diaz in the future. But yeah, definitely Gary Russell won that fight, but I had it closer, 115, 113.
Okay, cool. Let's get to the draw of the night, man. This is the big time. This is Air Canada, big fight in Toronto. Came out a draw, another draw for Badou Jack. Break down what happened, man.
Well, we kind of had it a little different. I'm okay with the draw, and it's something similar to the Broner fight. And Jesse Vargas, and if you listen to that video, how I broke that down, it was the same thing with Badou Jack. Although it seemed like from listening to Badou Jack's corner, that was the game plan to take Adonis Stevenson into deep waters and then drown him. Again, Adonis Stevenson is 40 years old, so he's one of the older fighters. So their game plan was they knew he was going to come out early. He has that one punch knockout power, so they kind of wanted to take him to deep waters and drown him. Where I disagree, where I have my differences with you is that was a great game plan. And Badou Jack did turn the volume up. He put the gas pedal down in the 7th round, but he lost the 10th round. So that strategy, if you're going to apply that strategy where you're going to lose the first half of the fight only to tire your guy out and beat him the second half of the fight, you got to be able to punch the pedal to the metal the whole second half of the fight. And he lost the 10th round, and then he lost the beginning of the 11th round with body work from Adonis Stevenson.
Adonis was stunned him with that body shot in the 10th.
He did, and he felt it.
That might have saved him.
And I think that's what it did. And for Adonis to catch second wind, being a 40-year-old fighter, to catch second wind in the second half of the fight and be able to just come out and do what you did, that's great. And I really appreciate that from him. So I do see it as a draw.
He was dead at the end of the 12th, though.
He did, and that's why, and that's what made it a draw. To be honest with you, if the 12th round looked like a draw, then Adonis Stevenson should have won that fight because he did early work, early damage, and jumped out ahead in the scorecards early on in the fight. So the fact that Badou Jack really won the 12th round and just went out with a bang is what gave him that draw. Other than that, it should have been a split decision going Adonis Stevenson way. That's my take.
Okay. Well, we're gonna see again. They're gonna line up and do it again. So we're gonna see in the rematch. I got Badou Jack in the rematch.
I do too. I got Badou Jack in the rematch because obviously Badou Jack is the younger, stronger, better fighter. To be quite honest with you. And so the second time around, I don't think they're gonna take the same approach as they did the first round. He's gonna turn up a little early, and he's gonna probably try to get Adonis Stevenson out of there because Stevenson could have got him out of there. He could have got him.
If you had another 30 seconds,
yeah, he could have got him out of there. So a couple times, he gave him the business. So that's our take on that. We definitely want to talk about some of the upcoming fights, and I want your take on there. Of course, Errol Spence Jr. and Campos. That's
Dallas. You're a Cowboy fan.
I am a Cowboy fan.
Yeah, that's in the Dallas training facility. It's Errol Spence's hometown. So he's gonna get that home cooking, and I think he shouldn't have much problem with Campos. I seen him stopping him within 8, look good, and get himself prepared for the bigger fights in the welterweight division.
Absolutely. I agree with you. It's pretty much a tune, not so much of a tune-up fight, but just a stay busy fight for Errol Spence Jr. Not to take anything away from Campos, but this is Errol Spence Jr. we're talking about. Yes, I am a Cowboys fan. You know, we them boys, as you are a Giants fan.
Hey man,
So you know how we
we got championships.
Yeah.
But we're not
gonna get into that. You know the Giants are looking good this year, but we're not gonna get into that. But yeah, definitely gonna be a great fight. On that same card, you have Charlo versus Trout.
Is that on the same card?
It's on the same card.
Oh no, Berto is on the same.
Berto's on the same. No, I think so. Trout and Charlo, and I have to look that up. Trout and Charlo fights in June as well.
Yeah, they fight that no about a different card.
Okay, so they're not on the same card. I don't know where I got that mixed up. Do a little more research on that. But so on that same card, we do have Andre Berto and Devin Alexander. So how do you feel about that?
Oh man, they're both past their prime. Let's be honest. Berto, shout out to all my Haitians, man. He does a lot for Haiti. Shout out to him. But in the ring, he definitely passed his prime. His prime was with the Victor Ortiz fights. Those were great fights. Entertaining fighter still, but past his prime. But I'm taking him to beat Devin Alexander. I feel like he's gonna put combinations together, and I see him win a decision against Alexander.
Oh, you see it going, so no one's gonna get anybody out of there.
No, I see it going 12. That might I see it going
12. As an exciting fighter as Andre Berto is, I don't really see it going 12. I can't imagine it going 12. I think at some point, Devin Alexander is very disciplined. He can box, but I see it, as you mentioned, both of them are past their primes, and I see them giving the fans a hoorah. So I think that fight ends a little earlier than 12.
So who's in the canvas?
I gotta go with. You know what? I think in between the fight, both of them may hit the canvas.
Yeah, both
will hit the canvas. But I think victorious with a knockout would be Andre Berto. I gotta go with myself.
So you're allowed to get Haitian food again after this.
Thank you. I'm gonna go with my zone. So I got definitely Devin Alexander on now. Now we're gonna talk about Trout and Charlo, which we already know Trout already lost to. We always get them mixed up. So who's the older one, Jermell or Jamal?
I think Jamal is the older one. I could be wrong. Jamal and Jamel, but I get it.
Well, okay, so let's not say older. Let's say bigger one, because they're just they're twins.
Yeah, the bigger one, the one that fights at 160, he beat Trout already.
He did, and so is that Jamal or Jamel?
Man, you guys y'all need to put a bell on each other. But
somebody need to get.
I'm not sure. I want to say Jamal.
Okay, so we know he lost to the bigger brother already.
Yeah.
And now he's fighting the other Trout.
154.
154. And the first fight with the other Charlo was a good fight. It went down to the wire. Trout is a problem. You can say what you want to about his past fights and his losses, but he's a step above a journeyman.
He's always a good test.
He definitely is he's a good test. So I got Charlo in this fight. I don't have a knockout. I have it going 12, but I do have Charlo by decision.
I have to agree. I think Charlo, this is a good, solid fight. I think this is the fight that will, I hope he looks impressive because he has Herb next. That's the unification at 154. That's what we want to see. So I hope he looks good against Trout, so we can get we can get that big Herb fight.
Listen, after how Herb looked against Lara, he needs to get Herb out of it. And nothing against Herb. It's just based on how life is. What have you done for me lately? And what you've done for me lately against Yaroslandi Lara, who, if most people don't understand, it's a very, very good boxer.
Cuban boxer.
Cuban, again, we talk about Cuban boxers. But he actually fought your fight. He didn't run around the ring. He didn't box. He sat in a pocket and exchanged with you. And he's a much smaller fighter. And it gave you problems. Herb won the fight with the knockdown in the 12th round, if you look at the scorecards. Had it not been for that knockdown, the fight would have been decision Lara. So he fought your fight. He didn't run around. He didn't box you. He sat in a pocket and exchanged with you. And you couldn't get him out of there. So I don't see how you're going to get Charlo out of there.
Okay.
That's just my take on that.
Okay, so can't wait to see that fight soon. Who we got?
So that's just some of the upcoming fights. Of course, you know, we have fights that we would love to see. Like a segment we're gonna have is
State of the ring.
State of the ring and the must-have matchups.
Must-have matchups. Yeah, that's what we.
You know, that's something we're gonna work on.
Okay.
But we do want to talk about the state of the ring because some big things has happened in boxing. Eddie Hearns is making noise.
Is he the Godfather?
Listen, he's looking to take that seat.
Okay.
He's making noise with a $1 billion broadcast deal with DAZN or DAZN.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get into that, but DAZN, DAZN, however you want to do it.
He's talking the good game. He's talking
He is.
that good ish, as you could say. He's saying that this is gonna transform boxing.
And it has the potential to transform boxing. It's really going to challenge a lot of people out there. PBC, it's going to challenge HBO, Showtime. It's going to challenge pay-per-view as we've been accustomed to in itself because of $1 billion broadcast deals. That means purse increases.
Yes.
You know, so certain fighters who wanted to do the holdout game to build a big pay-per-view event can potentially fight each other. Because they won't have to worry about that because they'll get the money.
Money will be there.
Money will be there for them to fight each other now. So, so I really want your take on that. Like, do you think this helps boxing? And if it does help boxing, what does it do to the other promoters, the U.S. promoters? And
well, I know we're gonna disagree on this one.
most likely.
Eddie Hearns is young, 38 years old, so he's bringing the young influence into the game, and he sees things a little differently. I think he finds the pay-per-view model to be dated, and he's saying, you know, why should fans, a lot of us, let's be honest here, we wait a long time for good matchups. Floyd and Pacquiao, in my opinion, took too long to happen, and I think he's trying to say that why should we wait so long? Let's have the matches happen now. So.
Okay.
My thing is, if he wants to go with that route, I'm behind him. I would love to, as a fan, I want to see the matchup happen more quickly. And he can convince people by making the Joshua Wilder fight happen quickly. Then I think he'll really have a foot to stand on.
And funny you mentioned, and I understand where you're coming from behind that. But you mentioned Joshua Wilder, and a big part of why that fight's happening is because of a third party like Showtime that is stepping in, that's mitigating and making sure that happens. So, you know, it's definitely going to change the landscape of boxing, I think. But do you think having fighters fight right away all the time is great for the fans? Don't get me wrong. But do you think that's going to saturate the sport? Do you think there's not going to be any, you know, big build-up, suspense? You know, do you think that can hurt where boxing is going?
It can. It definitely has the potential for that to happen. But I think, you know, you have to manage it right. I don't think you want to give the fans exactly every matchup. I think you want to let these fighters get a profile. That's why sometimes they need a promoter, you know, to help, you know, so that they can get a good following. That's how you make the big money fights. Your following and my following come together for a big event.
Right.
You know, a big boxing fight is an event. It's not just a fight. You know,
Right.
so you need the stare downs, you need the weigh-ins, you need these things to build up big fights. So if Eddie Hearns can manage it and, you know, give the fans big fights in a relatively short amount of time, you know, I'm not saying sometimes fighters, we don't want fighters going past their prime, but if they give it relatively quickly, I'm all for it, man. I can't wait to see what he does with this bag of money he has right now.
He has a big bag of money, a Santa Claus bag of money. So as far as, of course, you know, Eddie Hearns, he, you know, a lot of his fighters are out of the UK. He's from the UK. So do you think with this deal, of course, with this deal, it's going to be strictly streaming from, you know, DAZN or whatever the case may be. So none of these fights within this deal, I think he has 16 fights a year that he has to provide for them.
I think in the U.S. alone.
Oh, in the U.S. alone or all together?
I think it's the U.S. alone. He has 16 fights he's going to put in the U.S. I think there's going to be a little bit more fights total because he's going to have some in the U.K.
Okay.
But that's a good amount of dates in the U.S., man.
16?
16
That's
dates
good.
in the U.S.
That's good.
I'm like I said, it's a experiment that we can't, as boxing fans, can't wait to see how it plays out.
So What does this do? Because obviously Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing is really challenging Golden Boy Promotions, Top Rank Promotions, Mayweather Promotions. So a lot of these guys, even the Phantom of Boxing, Al Heyman, you know, the man behind the curtain. So it's really challenging all these other promotion companies. And so do you think this makes these promoters kind of come together to understand, like, hey, the state of the ring is in jeopardy of, you know, being in our favor, being in the backyard of the United States is in jeopardy now with Eddie Hearn's UK and this network and this deal?
Well, let's start off with Golden Boy. What is going on with Golden Boy? Because we've spoken many times throughout the years about without Canelo, what is Golden Boy? You know, they have to start building for the future. They need to build younger stars. I know they have Ryan Garcia, which is using social media, which is great.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, the cash cow is Canelo. What can they do to better? And what is the state of Golden Boy? Do you feel they're on a decline?
They're definitely on a decline. After losing Richard Schaefer, which I think was monumental to Golden Boy Promotions, they've been on the decline. They've been holding on to Canelo, and now they're holding on to a piece of steak that Canelo ate. That kind of, you know, really contaminated steak. You know, so Golden Boy is in trouble. They're in trouble. Mayweather Promotions, as we talked about in the last segment, when we introduced DuckTales, Golden Boy seems like there's trouble in paradise as well.
Golden Boy?
I mean, not Golden Boy, Mayweather Promotions. TMT.
So we're going to go Golden Boy, we're going to go with stock down. What's TMT looking like?
TMT is looking good as far as what their fighters are doing, but as far as the future of TMT, with the trouble in paradise with Tank Davis, who mentioned that TMT, like the Mayweather Promotions have done right by him, which I kind of alluded to in the last segment, because I said, hey, they put you in positions to be a champion and to get belts. So, but in an interview, he mentioned that Mayweather Promotions has done right by him, but Floyd, the problem was Floyd. So, kind of has
a personal problem.
Right. So, what could possibly be happening with Floyd in his fighters that is you know, clouding the whole Mayweather Promotions environment with his fighters? So that's funny.
Is that affecting the brand? Is the brand stock up, stock down, right? Even with the Tank drama?
It's hard to bet against Floyd. We've learned that throughout his whole career. The TMT, Mayweather Promotions, is still Floyd Mayweather at the end of the day. I wouldn't say stock down. However, I'll say I'll be watching that. I'd be kind of paying close attention. Yeah, very cautious about, you know, buying stock in Mayweather Promotions, so to say, because it looks a little shaky. The future looks a little shaky. So I definitely will be cautious with that.
Well, shout out to David Hanley. Hanley, I don't want to mess up his name, but young prospect, looks real good.
Oh, Devin Haney.
Yeah, David Hanley, I'm sorry.
Haney, yeah.
And he got, you know, Floyd got a gold chip right there. So
I'm
excited to see.
Devin Haney is real good. We talked about the future of boxing right now. The Ryan Garcia, the Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson. Even Tank Davis still, he's 23 years old. So he's still within, you know, he's like the older brother of these guys, but he's still right there. He's not no Unc Davis. He's still like old big bro Davis. So, you know, those guys, man, that is the future of boxing. There's a lot of other prospects coming up, and we'll make sure we get these guys their rightful notoriety and recognition, and, you know, we'll put them out there. But boxing looks good, and this $1 billion deal with Eddie Hearns is really gonna shake up boxing, because you mentioned Eddie Hearns talked about some of the fighters that he would want to sign. Adrian
Broner, Deontay Wilder, Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. is that hot name right now. So, hey, anything that brings more fans to boxing and more competitive matchups, I'm all for it, man. And like I said, if it's gonna make boxing better, I'm all down. Doesn't matter.
I'm with you, man. If it makes the boxing world better, if it makes boxing better, I'm with it.
Competition's always good.
It's great. Competition is great. I just don't want there to be a negative impact that we don't see now, that really happens down the line and has us looking back and saying, damn, I wish this never happened, you know, and this was a bad move. So only time will tell, however.
Yeah.
If
So
this is a great move or not.
To the fans, tell us what you think. Chime in, like, subscribe.